We're back again at the Supercenter Chef. Hello, I'm the Supercenter Chef, and today we're bringing you steak. A grilled steak. Everybody does it different. This is my take on it. Here I've got 5 ribeyes cut and ready to prepare. This is likely to be one of my most controversial shows. Why? Because in the town where I live, I am known for my steaks. Half the people that I cook for said that if you have any recipe on Supercenter Chef, you've got to put the steak recipe and tutorial on there. The other half have said, yeah, you can cook some other things, but really the only thing you're wonderful at is your steaks. If you give that away, what do you got going for you? So in order to accommodate them both and form a happy medium, I will show you the techniques involved in preparing my steaks. However, I will not tell you the exact composition of the spices for the rub I use. My dog apparently thinks that I need to be paying attention to her, or is just upset that I'm not spending time telling you exactly what's going to be in there. One important note, I mentioned in one of my earlier shows that Anne Burrell has a TV show called Secrets to a Restaurant Chef. She just did a steak recipe on there, and interestingly, the rub is very similar to mine. I will put the link to her recipe on our blog right here. You can find that. Basically, the secret ingredient she uses is brown sugar. I couldn't agree more. It helps create a nice, good, crisp coat when you grill, and that's something people always enjoy. So let's get to preparing these steaks. I use a method called dry hand, wet hand. I will use this hand to put the rub on, this hand to rub it in. One point of difference between my steaks and many you will see on the internet and elsewhere is that they will have mixed their spices into a rub, have it in a jar, and sprinkle it over the steaks, rub it in. I do not do that. I think I get better results from putting each spice on individually and rubbing in between each step. Steaks, however, are a highly personal cooking endeavor. Sometimes what one person thinks is a wonderful steak, another person won't like. This is merely my take on it. Steak is also a field with a lot of myth and legend associated with it. I am not a professional chef, and it's possible that many of the tips and tricks I point out here are not scientifically founded. Some of them may actually be dangerous, so beware. Who knows what you're going to get. I have tried changing up individual parts of this recipe as I've read more about cooking and gotten a better scientific knowledge of what's going on. However, when I've run those through my test kitchen, nobody really seems to like that as much as they do this recipe. So this is what I'm sticking with. Let's get to it. Most steak recipes will call for a little moisture to just to wetten the, is that a word? Just to moisten the steaks, give the spices something to stick to. That liquid ingredient is not really all that important. Some people use water, some people use beer, some people use olive oil, another good choice. I happen to use Worcestershire sauce, but I'm really not using it for a lot of flavor. So I will just put a couple drops on there to give it something for the spices to stick to. Then after every step, we're going to just kind of massage that in. Massaging and loving is what it's all about for a nice, moist, juicy steak. At least that's what I believe. And my steaks are good, so they back it up. Next, we'll just start with the spices. I go for a light covering. You can see here, just a consistent, clear covering is all we're looking for. Good steaks shouldn't require a lot of seasoning, which brings me to another point I've wanted to make. The secret to a wonderful steak recipe is not any of this fancy stuff, it's good meat. You can get these steaks at the Supercenter, and if you have to, that's fine. Go get ribeye. That is my favorite. It has a lot of nice marbling in there. You can try and have them cut it for you, but if you have an alternative in town, get the best steak you can afford. A little plug for my guy. I use a butcher just down the road called Keith's, just outside Macedonia, Arkansas, if you're ever in the area. He's got great ribeye, great prices, and he always takes good care of you. Another thing you want to look at when you're getting the steak, I mentioned marbling earlier. Marbling is that white veins you see in the meat. Really all that is fat, but that fat inside the meat will kind of melt out as we grill it and impart a great deal of flavor to the steak. That's one of the things we want. We don't really care about the fat on the outside, it's the fat on the inside that will really melt inside the beef and give it some flavor. Sometimes you gotta get mean with them before they respect you. Alright, so on to the seasoning. Again, just a light coating. Rub it in there real good. Just going down the line. Rubbing after each one. At about this point you can really start to smell the meat and the spices coming together. I'll cheat a little bit. This is Italian seasoning spices. I put this on there for a little green flavor, but not too much. It's easy to overdo it with this. So I just get kind of light dusting on there, very, very light. Very easy to go overboard with that. Then our final ingredient is no secret, it's black pepper, an ingredient important to any steak recipe. This is coarsely ground. You can put a fairly good amount on the steak without making it too peppery. And so I like that coarseness. When you massage it in, it helps get a nice texture. We'll hit it once more with our moistening agent just to help kind of dissolve some of those spices and get them down into the meat. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking I didn't see him put any brown sugar in there. That's okay, because I have a brown sugar mixture / concoction. This is my secret ingredient. I will edit this video out so you don't see me putting it on there. Okay, we're back. We've put our final mixture on there. What we're going to do now is just flip it over and repeat the process. You can do this seasoning as far in advance as you like. Ann Burrell on her recipe recommends anywhere between 1 hour and 3 days. It doesn't seem to me that increasing the time for the spices to really get in there adds a great deal of flavor. Now it'll add a little bit, but it seems to be more trouble than it's worth. So usually I'll do this in early afternoon when I plan for a dinner steak grilling, and that seems to give it plenty of time to let all the flavors meld in there. So again, we're going to do just a light brushing with some liquid. Of course, I always make a little mess, but hey, that's okay. And then again, just go down the line, putting our dry rub on there. Another thing I guess we should talk about is steak thickness. They will ask you that when you go to the Supercenter or any good butcher. And really that depends on how you're going to prepare your steak. I find the best steaks are medium rare. And for medium rare, what works best for me is an 1¼ inch steak. That way when you put it on the grill, you can still get a nice sear on the outside, and the inside should be that perfect medium rare we're looking for. If you like rare, you could probably go up to 1½ inch. If you like medium, just buy a lot of A1. It doesn't matter how you're going to prepare it because you won't be tasting the meat anyway. But that's just my personal opinion. And that's it. That concludes the marinating / dry rub portion of steak preparation. All we're going to do now is cover this with some saran wrap, put it in the refrigerator, let the flavors soak in there a little bit till this evening when we're ready to grill. One important thing to note is that you never want to grill a cold steak. You want the steak to come up to room temperature. I've read varying reports on how long you should take the steak out of the refrigerator before grilling it. Some people say 30 minutes. I prefer at least an hour because, you know, the vessel as well as the steaks will need to come up to temperature. That gives it plenty of time to do that. That way it'll cook more evenly throughout the steak. Some people are worried about bacteria and whatnot growing in that hour. That has never really been a problem to me. In fact, I've left mine out for 2 or 3 hours before without having any problems. I find that the longer I can leave it out before grilling it, the better result I will get. So experiment some. An important thing in that equation, of course, will be the quality of meat. I suspect that a higher quality of meat kept very close to freezing at a quality butcher can be left out longer than, say, a piece of meat that's been sitting out at the Supercenter for 3 days in that barely cooled area. So whatever you feel comfortable with, whatever level of quality meat you get, just experiment a little bit, and most importantly, don't get sick. I'm going to cover this with saran wrap, turn off the tape, and we'll see you this evening when we get ready to grill it. Thank you for tuning in. I'll see you shortly.